Hi, this is Kylie Coo. A very big welcome to my studio. So, our prompt for the Mixed Media Emporium Facebook group for November is holiday preparations. Just starting to get ready for any holidays that we may celebrate, and I'm hoping that the projects that we come up with can be adapted to suit whatever it is that you celebrate. So, our challenge for the first week of November is cards, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So I will put this on at a faster speed, and you can even speed it up faster using the little gears if you want. So I've taken my sketchbook and I've sketched out a few designs that I want to make into card toppers. Now ignore that little penguin, didn't get it finished, but there's 3 others that I want to make. Now I've already sketched them onto these little pieces of watercolour paper. I will go over it with a ballpoint pen, just a basic Bic biro, because you'll see the design a little bit better and how I actually drew them. Now, as I say, I'm making these as card toppers, but I will show you at the end of the video how these can be inserted or simply glued onto a card, but there's some other things I'm going to do with them beforehand. So I've got 3 little images. The first is just a little snow scene with hills and a little house, a very simple image, and you'll see that my trees are nothing more than a straight line with a few wiggly lines to the side. So my card toppers are just going to be little winter scenes, quite cute, and doesn't take an awful lot to create them at all. So just inking in, just adding a little bit of detail here and there, nothing too much really, and that's the first one done. Next I'm moving on to my reindeer, and again I'm just going to go right around that, and then finally I'll do it with my bear. Now it could be a polar bear, it could be a brown bear, a black bear. I am just going to leave it as kind of white, so really as a polar bear. So getting the antlers in there, I like to make antlers, if I draw a little deer like this reindeer, I like to make them uneven, because if you look at real reindeer, their antlers aren't always symmetrical. So putting a nice cosy scarf on and a little bobble hat. And just thinking this reindeer might have a little bit of a white tummy. Remembered I had to put the chimney back in that one. Now to my polar bear. And there's a bit of artistic license in all of this, of course. So giving my polar bear a hat and a scarf, just similar to the reindeer, keeping it very simple. Really just a few simple lines to create these. And the thing I like about this project is, as I say, it's a winter scene. If you're in the southern hemisphere, then you may have different kind of symbols for this time of year as you approach whatever holidays you celebrate. Just gonna erase the pencil lines now, just showing you quickly, and then I'll do the rest off camera. So I'm now going to take some watercolours. In this case it's my set of Arteza. You could paint these if you wanted to make these in with whatever paints you want. You could use acrylics, you could use coloured pencils, watercolours like me, whatever you want. Now I have put this on faster because a lot of it is just going to be doing the watercolour background. I'm also using those Arteza water brush pens, and I recently bought a set of miniature brushes from Arteza, and I'll be using them later on. So in terms of the sky, I just want to create something that's not a kind of flat colour. So you could make it just a plain black, but I want to give that sense of that kind of winter sky when, there's that feeling of different colours, especially when the snow's coming. The sky takes on that kind of pinky tinge that just hits the edges of the clouds. So For this, you could use something like a black or a very dark blue, a red or a pink, and then maybe a lighter blue. I think I also add in violet, I also add in a little bit of green. I do each one just ever so slightly different. Now, if the colour is too heavy, just lift it with a paint rag or a piece of paper towel, something like that. And of course, what I'm doing is putting down a first layer. Watercolour will often dry much lighter, so I'll go in with a second coat afterwards. So doing the background of my polar bear now, and starting with a different kind of base colour. This was a sort of violet, but you'll see that I add more in. The hardest part here is just cutting in and getting right round the image, but I will use a smaller round brush in a moment, and later on I will do some of the finer details with one of the Arteza mini brushes that I got recently. And it's my first time using them at all, but I do only use the one today. So you can see just creating a slightly different coloured background, taking that round brush now and just pulling it in closer to the edge of the bear, just to get close up. So I decided that I wanted to do something, as I say, a kind of winter scene for each, and a couple of cute little animals and one little just cute little house. So this one for the background, I'm starting it with a black. Now obviously as it dries, or depending on how much water I put on it, it will go a little bit lighter. And in a moment I'll start to cut in around those fiddly little antlers. But you know, it wasn't too difficult, it just takes a little bit of time. And of course, because these are watercolours, I'll be making sure that I dry each layer before going on to the next. So, I'm going to add, I think I decided to add, I think it was a little bit of a green, yeah, kind of bluey green into the background, just to give it a little bit of interest here. So it's very much a case of just building up those backgrounds before I get on to the detail of painting the actual main features. So going back to that first one, adding in some black, I wanted to darken it up, especially at the edges. So what I was trying to do here was to create a bit of a kind of glow just in the centre of the picture. Perhaps it's still the glow of the sun having set, or the glow of the stars. You can really use your imagination here. Put that on a little bit too deeper than I wanted it, but you know, again, can just pull a bit back and go back to that kind of magenta colour there. And I'm just dabbing and brushing, just building up that colour. Back to this one. This time I'm using a bit of indigo. I think indigo is a really good colour for a kind of night sky, or you know, if you're wanting to create something like the kind of colours from the Aurora Borealis. Just getting that sense of the fact that, you know, sky colours are not just a flat black. But, you know, flat black would make it very dramatic, and if that's something you like, you know, why not try different things and see what you like. So the sky does take a little bit of time, you know, because I'm doing it in 2 or 3 different layers, but it's fun to do, just playing about with it. And if there's anything you don't like, let it dry and then go back in with more colour later. So giving that a really good dry at this point. Just showing you £140 watercolour paper was what I made these cards from, and they're, I think, around about 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'm going to take as it turns out, I think it's the biggest brush in this set, a number 1 round, because I just want to use that to work on some of the detail of the kind of focal points. So just using a bit of an orange here, just to give a glow from the house windows, and a very, very simple basic house. I've taken some black, which I've watered down well, so it's more a grey, just to add some shadow, because although it's snow and it's white, you know, there will still be shadow cast if there's the moon, and you just want to kind of define different bits of it. So taking it along the kind of hill lines there as well, there'd be a bit of shadow around the trees. I'd obviously splash a little bit of purple there, but we won't worry about that. That will be disguised as I go on. So you could leave it totally white if you wanted, but I just felt I wanted a little bit of shadow going on this. Going along the line between the hill and the sky, just to fill that in a little bit, just using that black again. Then with some water, just blending it out a little bit more and into the rest of the sky. Darkening up the roof a little bit, just to help define it. Now onto my polar bear. So I'm going to give this one a really bright magenta pink scarf, something nice and warm looking. Now you could really go to town on this with kind of detail, you know, you could add stripes, you could add little crosses, checkered effect, tartan effect, anything at all really. Deciding on the colour of scarf and hat for the reindeer, and I go for this, I think it's actually called a spring green, but to me it felt like the types of colours of scarves we sometimes see at this time of year, so nice and bright. I wanted these to be bright and cheerful. So a matching hat for each of them. Now, although the polar bear is white, obviously, again, as I did with the snow scene on the first one, just adding in a bit of black, watered well down, just to give it a bit more definition. And I'll do the same on the face. So you could obviously, if you wanted to do a project like this, you could do something similar, do your own designs, you know, and I'm very happy for you to draw these for your use, so there's no problem at all with that. And I think these will make nice little card toppers, you know, obviously to send to friends. And it's just a winter theme for me, so it's not associated with any particular holiday, but you could adapt it to whatever holiday you want. There's something nice just about celebrating winter itself. So, giving him some rosy cheeks. I don't know if it's a him, but yeah, the bear now has some rosy cheeks. Adding a little bit more of the paint in just in areas, certain areas where there would be a bit of shadow, and that's just to give the detail a bit of definition as well. So I'm going to make my reindeer this kind of light brown fawn colour. Getting a little bit under the chin, because in this case the scarf doesn't go right up to the chin, round and up the antlers. And again, just a little bit darker here and there, just to give a bit of a shadow effect, and just to show that this is not totally flat. Darkening up the antlers a bit, just felt they needed to be a little bit darker. Under the hat. and a little bit down the edge of the face. And you see I put a bit round eyes as well, but I will come back in with some water. I was less keen on that, just adding a little bit to the kind of snout. Yep, there I go. I've added a bit of water. I just didn't like the way that was round the eyes. And I'll take my pen in a second and go over the eye again, just to bring it out. Little bit of grey onto the snow there. Going in with the green now to just darken some of the areas on the reindeer scarf and indeed on the reindeer's hat. And again, just a bit of grey onto the snow and onto the bauble on the top of the hats. So again, at this point I am going to give this a really good dry, giving the reindeer a pink nose and some pink cheeks. So this is the type of thing you could keep going with this for ages, add more and more detail, or you can keep it very simple and straightforward. So coming to the end, and what I'm going to do is take my biro pen again and I'm just going to draw in the lines. Now this time I'm not drawing them completely straight, I'm making them quite sketchy. That's just a look I like, especially when using watercolour. Going over the trees. Just some marks on the roof and a little bit of smoke coming out the chimney there. Doing the exact same with the bear and using my pen just to add in little bits of shading here and there, little bits of detail. I just think this type of thing helps bring something to life. It just adds a certain something to it. And it really is just the way that I like to work. And then on to the reindeer. And I think this just helps it stand out a little bit more as well from the background. So just tiny pen marks here and there, just to bring it to life. So what I want to do now is, it's a snow scene, so I want to add some snow. So I'm just taking some of this Arteza Titanium White. I'm just going to use my watercolour palette to lay some down on that. Don't need very much at all, and I'm just going to mix some water in with that. I do swap over my brush just for a fan brush. I sometimes use an old toothbrush for this, but I'm just going to use a fan brush and I'm just going to add some snow to the scene. Some nice big blobs of snow because I want it to be seen. You could do much smaller ones if you wanted. I'm just going to take my tissue and take a couple of bits off the face of the reindeer, a couple of bits here and there. Just go over the eyes again. And that's more or less it. But I'll show you now what I'm going to do with them. So I have a piece of cardstock here, A4 size. Now, what I've done with this piece is I've folded it in half and then I folded it in half another way. So this will give me roughly A6 size. I'm not going to actually finish this off today because there's other things I want to do and they're not fully dry. So I would place this around about here and it could be glued down. And I'm just showing you how each sits on the background there. And you know, you could write a greeting underneath, whatever your greeting is, you know, warm winter wishes or whatever. So that could go there, and you know, obviously you can open the card up and put a message inside there. But the other thing I thought could do is to actually include the little card so that it could actually be taken out and, you know, then added to a journal or something like that. So what I would do for this is to take my little card, and I can't remember if I said it, but these are roughly 3 inches by 3 inches. I think it's 7.5 centimetres square. And I'm just showing you how you can draw round the edge. Now my white paint's still wet on this, so I am trying to be careful not to smudge it. So I'm just marking where the corners are. I would then do a line across at each corner. So roughly there. And then what I would do is those straight lines, I would get a knife. I'd obviously open the paper up completely, get a knife, slice that along there, and then the card can fit into there. You'd obviously then erase the pencil marks, but it means that that little card topper, could then be taken out and kept. And obviously you can sign your name to it as your little piece of art. And then somebody has the choice of keeping the full card or just keeping the little card topper, and as I say, adding it into another journal or something. So I do hope you've enjoyed my fun little designs, and you know, if you would like to join the Mixed Media Emporium, which is hosted by myself, Kylie, and co-hosted with Nina Ribena, if you'd like to join us, there is a link below in the description box. And you know, we'll also have a video this week, so please go and check out what she's doing. So there's each of my little scenes. I noticed the white on the reindeer had ran a little bit. All I'll do here, I'll take a paintbrush, it's still wet enough. I'll take a paintbrush and I'm just going to put some water on that and smooth that out. Although it's acrylic paint, it's wet enough just to take a brush just now and kind of smooth that out. And I'll see how it dries later on. I can always go in with some more paint, but you know, I'm actually quite happy with that. So yes, look forward to seeing what you create by way of cards in the Mixed Media Emporium. I'm going to do another 3 of these, and then what I'm going to do is scan them onto a sheet of A4, so letter size paper. Then I think I'll take them to my local printer, get them printed up, and because they're my own designs, I can have them copied and I can then add them to as many cards as I want. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks ever so much for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye for now.